Roadmap Genesis, offering guidance of ancient scripture to turn around the moral decline of American society. And we have the director, Nolan Lebovitz, on the line to chat with us about it. Nolan, how are you?
I'm doing great, Phil. Thank you very much for having me on.
'Tis my pleasure. So, clue us in on what's going on here. This goes back to the book of Genesis to help us find a roadmap out of American decline.
Yeah, I think my basic thesis in the movie, my idea is that Genesis, in particular, and the Bible in general, has the answers for all of the problems that we face in society today. It's just that nobody reads it anymore, so that nobody is actually familiar with the answers.
All right. So, what do we find in Genesis as a roadmap to help us? I mean, I'm looking at things like, Ferguson. What's going on? We were just talking about that. How the whole Ferguson deal is in decline. I mean, the housing prices have dropped in half, and society seems to be breaking down there. Are there lessons in Genesis about things like this?
Of course there are. I mean, when people watch Ferguson, the whole narrative is so troubling on so many different levels that the police officers, God should watch over them as they recover. Basically, Genesis provides models for, you take the Cain and Abel story, the very question, am I my brother's keeper, is what the whole Ferguson narrative is about. The whole Ferguson narrative is about Genesis 18, Abraham confronting God about what's going to happen to Sodom and Gomorrah. And saying, well, when is it our responsibility? When can we spare the towns? What is the role of righteousness? How do we stand up for people? How do we stand up against authority? How do we stand up against God in that narrative? How does Abraham stand up against God? And when you look at the housing prices, when you look at what's going on in terms of our economy, I think that the entire creation narrative teaches us, especially in America, that if we are truly created in God's image, and God was a creator, God was not somebody who pushed paper or who swapped derivatives. God was someone who actually created something, and I think that we had that value at one point where we actually manufactured goods. We created things ourselves. We acted in God's image. And I think to a large extent the division between Wall Street and Main Street is one of the things that speaks to the problem with where we've fallen off the path.
All right, so if we know what we did wrong, is it a way to get back on track as far as all this is concerned?
There is a way to get on track. There is a way, and I talk about it in the movie in Roadmap Genesis that it's basically two different paths. Number one, recognize the problem and understand why the model that Genesis presents is the model that we should be striving for or the model that we should be learning from. So in the case of Cain and Abel, we're obviously not striving to kill our brothers. We're obviously striving to think about how we can care for one another in a way that's compassionate, and in the same way, a way that's responsible, in a way that allows you to be the best person that you can be without me having to take care of you all the time.
Well, that is a great lesson. Yeah, I mean, because people think, they think the government should be taking care of them, and what is best for people in general is to learn how to be self-sufficient.
That's exactly right. Teaching how to fish, not giving them fish. That's exactly right. And that's I think very biblical, a very biblical value in terms of how to teach people how to fish rather than handing them all fish all the time. And I think that these are values that and that's part of the movie is I do these man on the street bits where I go and ask people questions, whether they've read, I say Genesis, you say, and somebody in the movie says Phil Collins, and another person says, Sega, and all of these, because they're totally unfamiliar with the Bible. But the truth is, I think if you just present these biblical narratives, common sense would tell people that it's right. It's better to teach somebody how to fish rather than give them fish. But just today, because of politics, because of Babel, which is what I talk about in the movie, because of the Tower of Babel narrative, we have two different groups speaking two totally different languages in this country. When you talk about liberals and conservatives, and they basically can't speak, they can't have a conversation because we're speaking two totally different languages. So if we can't come together on basic core values, then that's really how I see moving forward. Is first we have to agree on basic principles. And I'll give you an example, just to bring up your movie, An Inconsistent Truth. The basic principle, people are shocked when they watch the movie and realize that from Alan Dershowitz on the left to Mike Huckabee on the right, all of the interviewees in the movie care about the environment.
Right. They have a different way of getting there.
That's exactly right. So when I say I bring my kids to clean up the beach, I don't ask my children first if they believe in global warming or what scientific foundations or what they think. It's just simple to people. Just go make the community cleaner. We want better drinking water. We want better air for our kids to breathe. There's a million things to do before the Al Gore litmus test.
Yeah, and I think if they had done that, they'd get a lot more people on their side, too, instead of trying to scare them to death.
I agree with you 100%. So I think that's one of the messages of the movie is that there's a million things we can do before we go to a place of partisanship and disagreement. And I think as an American society, if we join together more often to say, what are the things we can accomplish that we agree on, instead of starting from the place of where do we disagree, where does partisanship come into place, we'd be better off.
Exactly. Yeah, because I've just signed on a solar company to do endorsements for solar power. They install solar panels and things like this. And we said, I don't even know where they are on this whole global warming thing. I said, look, let's just be honest about this. Where we can all agree is that if you can save money by moving to solar power, if you can do this in your house or your business, then it's a good thing. So we don't need to worry about all the other ancillary issues. We need to worry about where we can all come together, and I think that's what you're talking about here in this Roadmap Genesis.
Everybody in this country, whether they like it or not, is part of the Judeo-Christian narrative. There's a certain ethic that exists from the founding of this country till now. And the question is, are we going to teach our children to believe in that foundational wisdom, or are they going to kind of be left blowing in the wind, not sure what's right and wrong? And I think these very basic truths are things that we should be once again dedicated to so that our kids, I mean, this whole project started with me realizing that this was not the world that I wanted to raise my children in. I had this awakening after my daughter was born. And now I truly believe that we have to expect more out of our children. We have to teach them. We have to teach them to correct the ills of society. They can't just allow America to become what it's becoming. They have to actually correct the course.
Well, you've had your own personal transformation. If people don't know, I guess you wrote the screenplay for the movie Tortured. Is that right?
I wrote it and directed it. That's right.
Okay.
I used to be a real Hollywood filmmaker.
Right. That was the movie with Lawrence Fishburne and James Cromwell. And then you got married, and as you said, you had kids, and then you decided to become a rabbi.
That's right. So I started achieving a lot of success in Hollywood, and I had some time on my hands. That's when my daughter was born. And I was very involved, of course, with my wife and our daughter. And I had time to look around and say, this isn't the world that I wanted to raise children in. Like, what is wrong with what's going on? Why are people acting like this? And so I did a very basic thing. I started reading a passage of the Bible every week, which is the Jewish tradition. So every week, all Jews in the world read the same passage, the same portion of the Torah, of the 5 books of Moses. And I would read it and then think to myself, I can't believe the story reads so relevant. It's like it's about me. And when I was a child, it didn't read that way. What has happened in my life to make me feel this way? And then I would want to read more and read more and read more. And it eventually led me to going to rabbinical school. And I moved my family to Jerusalem last year. And we lived there for 1 year. And I studied with brilliant people. It was an amazing life experience. And then we moved back here to Los Angeles, where I'm going to finish rabbinical school, and I finished the movie, and I'm just trying to affect change.
Well, it's a great thing. So is this what you're going to move towards? Is doing more documentaries like this, or will you go back into the traditional, movies that you've done before?
No, I hope to do more documentaries like this. I mean, part of the idea of Roadmap Genesis is to promote it so that there can be a Roadmap Exodus. And I can go through the Bible book by book, making the case that it's totally relevant in today's modern era. And so that's why it's so important that people buy the DVD for Roadmap Genesis and download it, via iTunes. And it's all available on the website, roadmapgenesis.com.
Well, you make it simple. Yes, roadmapgenesis.com. where Nolan Lebovitz is the writer and director of this film, and I guess you're producing this deal, and you got Mike Huckabee in it. Who else is it? Who else have you interviewed in this thing, there, Nolan?
Oh, great people. I mean, it was amazing to spend a morning in New York City with Mike Huckabee. I sat in Alan Dershowitz's office at Harvard Law School. I spent a couple days with Ken Ham at the Creation Museum. I got to visit Eric Steckelbeck's set at the Watchman for Christian Broadcast Network. I sat with Rabbi David Wolpe and Rabbi Brad Artson here in Los Angeles. I got to visit and spend time with people. You know, most people only get to see these people on TED Talks.
Right,
and I got to visit with people, and the truth is that the thing that opened the doors is that all of these people find the Bible central to who they are.
Yep, that's right.
Everybody wanted to contribute to this conversation. And so this is a conversation that whether you're right, left, or center in the political debate, I think it's something that everybody recognizes right now is very helpful to find some common ground to move forward. And everybody, I mean, I screen the movie now at churches in Orlando and Atlanta and Dallas and Phoenix, and people are very unhappy. People are very unhappy with the way that society is going. And I'm not talking about big national or international stories. I'm talking about local things. And I think that this is not the time to make things more complicated. This is the time to make things simpler and to say this is about how we treat one another in society. This is how we treat our neighbors. It's about how we treat our children, our parents, our brothers or sisters. And change has to start for each of us in terms of our family circles, our neighborhoods. Once we do that, then it's much easier to affect change in a broader sense.
Indeed. Well, the website is Roadmap Genesis. Of course, that's the name of the movie, Roadmap Genesis, by the film's director, Nolan Lebovitz. Nolan, good luck with this, and we urge everybody to go there. We have a link now on our website at philvalentine.com under Daily Show Prep, so we urge people to go there and check this out. Nolan, appreciate it very much.
Phil, I can't thank you enough.
My pleasure.
Good luck with your documentary as well.
Thank you, sir. We'll talk with you soon.
Talk soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.